Welcome to the Sacred Dance Summit. I'm Leslie Zehr, author of The Alchemy of Dance, Sacred Dance as a Path to the Universal Dancer, and your host for this summit. My guest today is Tania Bohéme. Tania was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and has trained in many dance forms since childhood, such as ballet, jazz, tap, modern, hip-hop, breakdance, Latin styles, flamenco, Middle Eastern dances, including Persian dance. Tania has been studying Rat Shar'i, aka belly dance, and the styles derived from it for 18 years. She has multiple certifications in belly dance instruction. Tania has focused on sacred dance in a deeper capacity for the last decade and has found much healing through dance. Tania is also a certified herbalist. She was introduced to plants as medicine healers early in life by her grandmother, who was a plant healer and spiritual consultant in her community. She's a certified crystal healer, a certified Reiki master and teacher, and was initiated into the Mayan Toltec tradition of healing. She's created a method where she combines dance and the use of herbal plant medicines to create a unique healing modality called plant dance. Tania developed her method guided by using plant medicine and incorporating it into her dance practice along with meditation. Her dancing life has led her to stage performances and taken her abroad for theatrical performances and connections with different dance communities. Her main dance teacher is the acclaimed Rat Shar'i dancer and master teacher, Tamilin Dalal. Tania has also created recipes and plant medicine for healing. One of Tania's recipes is featured in the Sacred Vibes recipe book released by master herbalist Karen Rose through Sacred Vibes Apothecary in Brooklyn, New York. Tania is a married mom of 2 and is happy to share from her pool of knowledge with those who have an interest in her work. Welcome, Tania. Welcome to the summit.
Thank you, Leslie. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your summit.
We're excited to hear what you have to say to us today. Tania has a lot of interesting subjects to talk about. But first, before we get into that, maybe you can tell us just a little bit about your dance journey and how you started with dance.
I started dance at a very young age, at 5 years old. I was sent to my first dance class by my parents. It was amazing, fun. I couldn't wait to do it every week. And throughout my life, I basically have gone from dance style to dance style and learn different ways of connecting through dance. And it's been really amazing. I've learned a lot via the dance world and connecting with different dance communities. And I found lots of healing, in particular through the style of Raqs Sharqi, also known as belly dance. I've found tremendous healing through that modality of dance.
And now what you're doing is something called plant dance. You're bringing it all together.
Yes,
so
yes.
I understand that you actually came by this through your lineage, that actually you got started through your grandmother with working with plants.
Yes, my grandmother was a consultant for the community where she lived, and she made and prepared plant medicine for those who came to visit her for her spiritual knowledge and also for her medicine knowledge. And I learned a lot from her, even though when I was younger, I never really understood what she was doing. It was just kind of a natural thing in my family where, you knew that grandma's just making medicine with plants. She's working with herbs and she had her garden. And so I learned mostly by watching her, even though she did at times try to teach me about certain herbs. And then there came a time where I kind of forgot about that. And then I came back to it later on as an adult and remembered, oh, wait a minute, my grandmother used to do things like this. I remember this and she taught me
I know this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the best way to teach children is by osmosis. Like just do it, just have it around, and they're little sponges and they just absorb it all. And I have 2 grandchildren now, so I'm very happy to be sharing my things with my granddaughter. My grandson's too small, but later.
Yeah, but it's nice to share.
Yes, and I think that it's a really good way to learn because it's contextual. It's natural. You're using it. It's just happening. It's not like somebody's sitting down and trying to teach you something. Unfortunately, that's how most of us learn a lot of our modalities, and I think that makes it difficult when it's natural. And I think that was the way things were in the past. We learned everything sort of by apprenticeship, just by being around the other women and learning. So I'm very happy to know that there are still people that are are learning in that way. So tell us a little bit about plant dance. How does it work, and what is it exactly?
Well, it's a method that I use, that I've created for myself, to kind of melt two of my worlds together, which is dance and herbalism. And I knew that both modalities are excellent healers, and I wanted to find a way to kind of marry them. And for myself, I just started using the everyday cooking herbs that are easy to find anywhere. And I started incorporating them into my diet more often. I started drinking them as teas. I started using the essential oils, and just letting the plant kind of, come into me and teach me. It happens in increments. It doesn't just, you don't just use the plant once and then, wow, you're opened up, so much. It takes time. You have to get to know the plant. You have to build a relationship with the plant. And in herbalism, we do something called plant walks, where in order to get to know a plant, you walk with the plant at least for 12 weeks, meaning you use it or you carry it on your body, or you are around it in its presence. And you do this in order to get to know the plant. And I thought to myself, hey, if we can do this just to learn the herb, just to learn what it has to teach you, what about a plant dance? What about dancing with the herb? Aside from just walking with it and using it every day, how do you learn from it if you set an intention to learn from the plant, particularly through dance? And so I started doing it. I started experimenting on my own and jotting down notes of things that I saw differently from other times that I've worked with plants. I started comparing plant walks to plant dances, and I got a lot of different information. And I feel like it connected me to dance in a different way, and it connected me to the plant in a different way.
So how do you usually do it? You said with a plant walk, for 12 weeks or something, you're working with one plant. Are you doing the same in the dance? Do you take the plant or apply the plant, and then you use it over a period of time and you keep dancing with it, or how, what is the mechanism exactly?
It's basically the same as a plant walk. You basically decide, I want to use the plant for a prolonged period of time. It can be 4 weeks, it can be 8 weeks, it can be 12 weeks, however long you feel necessary. And you incorporate it into your everyday diet if you can. If you can drink it in tea form every day, that's wonderful. If for whatever reason you don't want to drink it, you can use it just through incense or essential oils, or you can sprinkle it in a bath if you feel like having an herbal bath. And you just use it in that way every day, with an intention that when you're ready to have your dance practice at home or wherever you practice your dance, you're kind of getting in tune with the dance through the plant as well. So you ask the plant, you speak to the plant, you talk to the plant, you say, my intention for this is to learn XYZ, or I'm trying to reach a certain point of healing. Can you help me? And of course, it doesn't always have to be with a certain intention, because sometimes it's nice to just do it and see what the plant wants to show you on its own, and what the dance that is inspired by the plant wants to show you. Because a lot of times In this dance practice of mine, I improvise my dancing. And I try to let the plant take me to where it wants to take me. But sometimes when I want to actually reach a certain point of intention, I think about that. I make sure that I speak to the plant. And if you talk to the plant will listen. And I know this might sound a little bit whoa to some people, but I think that it's a very natural way to use the plant. If you connect with it and you talk to it and you show it respect, it has a lot to teach you. It just, to me, it comes naturally. And I think that if other people tried it, it will come naturally to them as well. Because the more you use plants, the more you understand about them. And the more you understand they're alive.
It's knowing how to listen as well. I mean,
yes.
I imagine that you probably get messages from the plant during the dance.
I do. So there are times when I am just in a trance in dance, and I start getting visuals and thoughts, and it'll be like a light bulb went off, especially regarding my own healing journey. If I'm just dancing and I've been using the particular plant, maybe I chose a specific plant in that day because I wanted to reach a certain point in healing, whether it be, I try to go through the chakras is my way of doing it. So if I wanted to focus on the heart chakra, let's say, I would use a plant that is, corroborates with the heart chakra. And so I would get the answers I'm looking for. Sometimes I just feel like having a certain plant because my spirit is calling out to it, and I don't pick it according to chakras or anything. It's just, I kind of just go with the flow. And I take that as messages from the universe leading me somewhere.
And does it change the dance? I mean, if you did a similar dance with a different plant, would you notice a big difference between, or similar movements in a dance? Does it change what you're doing? Does it actually change the dance for you?
For me, it does. I believe it does. No plant is the same. So it's going to change your dance. And if you're doing dancing for healing, you're not usually choreographing anything. You're usually just letting your spirit take you where it wants to go. So no dance is really the same either. And so you do notice changes. For me personally, I've noticed where I have certain tensions in my body, where I need to work on moving with more natural flow in my body, where I'm stiff. I feel like the plant leads me to those areas. And then I can learn for example, if I have a lot of tension in my shoulders, I'm using a certain plant, that plant is leading me to the tension in my shoulders. It can be for various reasons. Maybe I'm carrying weight of certain stressful situation in my life on my shoulders. And the plant kind of leads me to that, makes me think about, it's kind of like you're dancing and in the middle of the dance, you have a thought and it's like, oh, that's the situation that's putting all this tension on my shoulders and making me feel stiff. And so you work on that. You know what it's like, if the first thing that pops in your head is usually what it is that you're going to deal with and that's affecting you. Because we all know on a subconscious level what it is that's affecting us, but with all the noise of today's way of living, we kind of just ignore those signs a lot of times. And when you ignore the signs, eventually that is what turns into what we call disease, because you're in dis-ease. And so listening and that first intuition that you have, that first thought about what it is that could be stressing you out or what it is that you need to heal, usually is what it is. And what I do is that I jot it down. I take my journal, I jot down whatever thoughts or visuals I've received during the dance in conjunction with the plant use. And then I get back to it and I think about, on a deeper level, how can I fix this? Why did this particular thought frame pop into my head while I was doing the dance? And I try to take it from there.
So maybe you could just go through uh, sort of a description of, in case anybody else would want to try this, a description of how you would go through, like the steps. So for example, maybe you would identify your issue first, or, I mean, is that usually how you begin? You feel tension, or you know you need healing in a part of your body. So you could start with that, and then like kind of just take us through the steps or the process, just in case anyone else would want to. Because I work with plants as well. I've made Egyptian flower remedies, and I do like intuiting with the dance. So everything you're saying makes perfect sense to me.
Good, good. I'm glad.
But I know when I did the intuiting with plants for the flower remedies, I was with my daughter, and so I knew how to do it. I just had to go into the garden, and the plants would speak to me, and I had to just sit with them, and I had to write down what they were saying. I know this is the process. Intellectually, I know this is the process. And so my daughter did it with me, and she was probably, I think, 12 years old or something. And I said to her, okay, we're going to go into the garden. We're going to sit down next to the plant, the one that calls you. You sit down next to the plant, and you just write down what it says to you. And she said, okay. And she walked into the garden, and I thought, okay, like, that's it? You're fine with that? You know, I was having all kinds of anxiety. I'm not going to be able to do this. And oh my God, you know. And she didn't have any problems. She just walked in, sat down with the plant, and started writing things down. And then, yeah, it is that easy. But it's that easy when you know it's that easy, or when you don't have things blocking you. So that's why I'm thinking if you can just take people sort of through what your process is and maybe how you listen to the plant, because a lot of people, it's a wonderful experience, but a lot of people don't know how to do it, and probably have anxiety or think that they won't be able to do that. So maybe you can just kind of describe a process or an example of something that you did once and how you went through the steps.
Okay, so if I, for example, know that there's a particular area in my body that needs healing and that I want to focus on, or maybe it's not body related, maybe there's a particular issue that is emotional that you wish to heal, I would focus on the issue, whether it's in my body or whether it's in my emotions. I would then think of plants. I would research plants that maybe correlate with that particular area or that particular emotion. I would sit with the plant, work with the plant, use the plant, consume the plant, as long as it's a safe plant. You know, there's plenty of dangerous plants to consume. So you pick, everyday herbs are the better way to go. Cooking herbs. And so after—
And are you doing that intuitively, or you're doing that because of the knowledge that you have of the plant?
Well, I think both, because I kind of used plants already before I decided to take my plant medicine journey on an academic level. I kind of did it on my own. And so I think you have the capacity of just doing it on your own. Sometimes there's a plant that you've never really worked with, but it calls out to you for whatever reason. And so you have to listen to that and say, well, why am I so attracted to this plant, even though I don't know anything about it? So what I would do is sit with the plant, and after consuming it and building a relationship with the plant, it might take you a day, it might take you two, it might take you a week. Then you set up your dance practice, and you bring the plant. Let's say in the case of lavender, you decided you wanted to use lavender for healing stress. Lavender is known to be very calming, very cooling. It relaxes you. It's amazing. So you're stressed out. There's a lot going on in your life and you're very stressed out. So you decide, okay, I'm going to have a cup of lavender tea. I'm going to sit with the plant. I'm going to put the essential oil in the diffuser, and you're going to breathe in that lavender essential oil, and you're going to let it kind of infuse into your body system little by little. And then you sit for about 5 minutes with it, and then you begin your dance practice. You warm up like you would warm up and you start to move, and just notice how you move. Notice if there's any difference in your movement. Notice if there are things that you're focusing on that maybe you weren't focusing on prior to using the plants. So you have, you know, it's like an exploration. You have an exploration with the plant as you're dancing. And it's good also because if there's a particular plant that you want to use, you're looking up knowledge on that plant. It's great to look up knowledge. And then you're actually also teaching yourself about the plant. If you got yourself an herbal book and you learned all the points that are important to know when you're going to use a particular herb, it's a great way to deepen your knowledge with plants. But then it's also wonderful to allow it to lead your dance into different areas where you never expected it to lead you. And so you basically do what is dancing the plant. You know, once you are building a relationship with the plant, you dance it. Dance it with the plant in your spirit, in your mind, in your soul. Ask the plant, talk to the plant, ask it to show you something, to teach you, to take you somewhere that you haven't been to before in your dance. And if you're listening to the plant, if you're paying attention to your movements, you'll notice a difference. And then when you're done, you know, you do your cool down at the end of your dance practice. When you're done, you sit down and write whatever you can remember. And sometimes you won't remember things right away. Sometimes it'll take you a day or two, and you'll go back to your dance practice in your mind 2 days later, and you'll realize and remember something that you didn't immediately after. And you'll say, hey, wait a minute, I did this interesting move, or I felt this interesting sensation in my body while I was dancing. And then you jot those down. And eventually a story will start to build and form.
And I think a lot of information comes in our dreams as well. So
oh yes,
to take the time to process it. And then do you usually continue on with that plant? Like maybe the next day you'd use the same plant? Is it that story that's unfolding, is it unfolding over time? Is it something that...
Yes, absolutely. It unfolds over time. You can use it every day, or you can use it once a week. However you feel comfortable using the plant is how you should use it. However, it does, you know, the more you use the plant, the more you'll accelerate the healing process with that particular plant. But you take your time with it, however you best feel about the plant. Sometimes plants can scare you off. And if you use it too much, you might just be taken aback by what some plants are harsh, and they show you things that maybe you don't want to see, or you're not ready to see. And so
healing can often be harsh. So
yes, absolutely.
That's an agreement we make when we start.
There are things you're gonna have to do.
Yeah,
exactly. So you have to be careful, but mindful at the same time, and don't let it scare you off just because it got a little harsh on you. But maybe slow it down a little bit.
And I think you can pose the question.
Absolutely.
Always ask those questions, like ask the question in your dance. Am I using this too much? Do I need to back off? Do I need to perhaps interject a different plant and then come back to this one? So I think that, and for me, sometimes I begin, like even in my journal, I might write the questions down just so that I've actually made that intention or posed that question before I actually begin the dance, and just see what happens.
And that makes a lot of sense. And that is a way to do it. It's like that is part of the intention setting, when you have these questions that you are looking for answers to, and you're trying to figure yourself out. And if you talk to the plant and you think, hey, maybe I'm taking it too far with this plant, maybe I should wheel it back a little bit, ask the question as part of your dance practice. And when we're dancing, there are, our hearts are being opened up. We have kind of like portals from the universe opening up while we're doing our dancing. Plants do the same exact thing. They just do it on a different scale. It's a different path, but it's kind of the same thing. And you have these two great healing modalities that then start to work together. So you're getting messages from two powerful training modes. And I think it's amazing and it's beautiful, the knowledge that you can get from both. And when you're working together with all, it's you, the dance, and the plant, it's an amazing combination, and you really can get a lot of answers. I'll tell you a quick story. A few months ago, like back in January, I was having one of my dance practices, and I was using lavender that very night. And I was really like in the moment. I was really dancing, and I didn't really set any particular intention that day. I just said, hey, I'm going to have a lavender tea, and then I'm going to dance and see where I go with this today. And in the middle of my dance, my grandmother, my other grandmother, not the one that I learned my herbs from, popped in my head. And I kind of heard a voice, like a message that said, your grandmother's going to be leaving soon, meaning she's going to pass on. And I thought to myself, immediately after getting that message, I was like, oh, I said, well, she's old and she's suffering from dementia. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of months she passes. Well, after I was done with my dance practice that night, I went home. I went to my bedroom, got ready to go to sleep. And I get a phone call from my mom that my grandmother passed away, maybe like an hour after I got that message. And I thought, oh my gosh, like that's how deep the dance and the plant went for me that day. And so, it's very interesting to me if you open yourself up and if you don't allow the preconceived notions that you may have about plants. Some people are scared of it because they don't understand it, they don't know it. And if you leave all that aside and you allow the plant to actually show you something, you can get a lot of information and a lot of knowledge. And then in the midst of your dancing, you're already opened up. So you're ready to receive without even realizing that you're ready to receive.
And I think that's why these are sacred practices, because you are putting yourself in that altered state, whether it's through the plant or the dance, and in this case, both. And you are receiving things. I mean, to me, that's the point. That's what you want, or what makes it sacred dance is the state of mind or the state of being. And that's why it's important to put yourself in a sacred space, because you open yourself up, you get messages. You want to be sure you're getting the right kind of messages. You want to be sure you're receiving the right kind of information. So I think to honor it as a sacred practice is a very important thing, because it will change the quality of what you're doing as well.
Yes. And if you think about plants as sacred, plants there are sacred plants, and then there are like your everyday cooking herbs, but really they're all sacred. They all have been, grown in the earth. Well, the majority of them. Now we have new technologies like, the hydroponics and whatnot, but the majority of plants are grown in the soil, and the soil of the earth has a lot to teach us. They're receiving a lot of knowledge themselves directly from the earth, and we consume that knowledge when we consume the plant. And so we are learning, and that's getting into our cellular memory. And so these dance in itself and plant use this is not a new concept, this is kind of a concept that I've created for myself in my modern way of living. But this plants and dance have been partnering up for millennia and then some. I mean, we don't even really know how far back it goes, but dance rituals and ceremonies and spiritual rituals and ceremony have always had dance and plant use. Well, the majority of them. It's pretty common knowledge in the shamanistic worlds and the spiritual healing worlds that you dance because you have to. You dance to get all that stuff out, to release, and sometimes to call in. But it's a lot of times it's accompanied by a plant, the use of a plant. a ceremonial plant, a sacred plant. So they have had a relationship for a long time, a good working relationship, clearly. And so
Did your grandmother use dance? Was that something that she taught you, or that you're bringing that together?
I'm kind of bringing it together on my own. Like I'm sure there's somebody else in the world who understands that you can use both plants and dancing together for healing, but I didn't really like learn it. It's kind of like for myself, I brought them together on my own in a modern way. But I mean, dancing is part of my family. That's like a natural thing. You know, the women in my family, they just dance. There was no, no classes, no formal dance lessons or anything like that. They just danced. The music came on and they danced, whether it was at family gatherings or maybe while they were cleaning the house, on a Saturday morning, turn on the music and dance as you cleaned. It was very much just a way of enjoying life. And so I grew up watching the women in my family dance. They always did. And that's, I got my passion and my interest in dance just from watching them have so much fun. And I think that happens a lot. I think that we see our family members dancing and we just follow. I mean, it's beautiful. It's part of our humanity.
Good thing to pass on, yes. No, dancing should be a part of family life, yeah.
And I think it's part of most families. I think most families have their dance fun that they keep amongst themselves, but the children see it and then they pass it on. And so, yeah, my passion for dance, I think, is definitely, it comes from my mom's side. And then my grandmother, I didn't really ever see her dancing, but I'm pretty sure she did a lot of dancing, especially in her youth. But mostly it was herbalism and spiritual knowledge that she taught me. So like tarot cards and just other spiritual healing methods that I learned from her, like creating herbal baths and the sort.
And what about working with like ancestral knowledge or ancestral messages through the use of plants and the dance?
So there's a moment when you're dancing and you're using a certain type of plant. In this case, for me, it's always come up when I'm setting an intention to receive ancestral knowledge. I set myself up for success by using the plant. As I'm using the plant, I'm asking the plant, hey, can you please open me up to some ancestral knowledge in this particular area? And I pick a plant that correlates with that particular area of emotional healing. And I just dance. I kind of like freely. I just go and do whatever. I don't plan anything out. I let the music take me where it wants to take me along with the plant, because music also plays a role in where you can go. If I feel like getting more furious messages, I will pick stronger music that really brings out a more furious type of dancing. And so I will get messages, ancestral messages. I feel like I get knowledge about situations in my family history, or just like in your cellular memory, because we carry a lot of memories from our past of things we never even experienced in our lifetime, but it's passed down through us, especially through our maternal lineage, because you were a cell inside of your mother's ovaries, inside of your grandmother's body once upon a time. And so you attained memories of your grandmother's experience in that cell that you once were. And so we carry this down. And when so it's in there, it's inside of you. You just have to reach out and open up a door to get the knowledge. And when you get these ancestral messages, and a lot of times for me personally, they're visuals more than anything else. I'll write down what I saw, and then you start to build a story. And then if you wanted to get even deeper, you can, bring other family members in by asking them questions. If if they're open to this type of healing, you can say, hey, you know, while I was doing the dancing, I got this particular visual, or I got this particular thought. And, you know, what do you think that means? What do you think this is connected to? Sometimes you kind of know, but sometimes you need the guidance of other family members as well, because maybe there's not a direct history that you are aware of, but somebody else in the family is. And,
for
and
clarity.
So you take it from there. Exactly.
Or confirmation, yeah. And I think because dance and music is a vibration, you're activating your cells, so you can release or activate these ancient memories or emotions or whatever that we're carrying inside of us. I think just the nature of the dance and the music can do that.
Absolutely. And if you wanted to get even more serious about the intention you want to set, you can go out of your way to pick music that correlates with the plant. And maybe even the chakra. And I mean, you can take it from the tempo of the music to the kind of instrument, you know, and the kind of instrument that matches the different body areas. Like, you know, you always think of the flute. You have to use your lungs to play the flute. So, you know, that's an upper body kind of a healing modality when you mix it together with dance and plants. So you look for plants that are going to stimulate maybe your throat chakra or your heart chakra. And you try to find music that has flutes in it, or maybe the violin is also upper body, you know. So you kind of try to match how the instrument is played, the kind of music that it plays, the kind of vibration it creates. You mix that together with the plant, maybe the chakra points in your body, and then you mix it in with the dance. And I think you can get a lot of information that way, you know. But in that case, you would really have to think about it on a deeper level and really set a strong intention, you know.
Do you do any kind of meditation or visualization before you start? Is that how you start your communication with the plant?
Absolutely. You definitely meditate with it. I'll sit with the plant. I will get in a meditative state. I'll use it. Most often to meditate with the plant, I will turn on my diffuser, put the essential oil, you know, and let it, and just breathe it in. It's the easiest way for me to meditate personally with the plant. Although I can also use, consume it. I can consume it. I can, if I know I want to work with this particular plant, I will throw it in my food, cook with it, drink it in a tea, and then also use the essential oil if I want to get a deeper connection with the plant, and in an accelerated manner. But yes, meditation, definitely. And also, you know, when you meditate, you kind of, you're quieting down your mind, so you can focus on what kind of questions do you really have. When you quiet everything else out, whatever sticks out, because you quiet down the noise, then you kind of, it just gives you a sense of direction. Like, oh, okay, wait a minute, this is out here, you know, waving its hand at me. So let me focus on that and see what that's about. And so that can give you a direction.
And I think when you quieten or you soften, you create a space for things to rise up. So if there are questions, maybe they're not in your conscious mind, but they can rise up from a deeper place if you can be just quiet with yourself and let that emerge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with the way that we live our lives in this modern era, where we are just always running around, busy. We got the social media to attend to. We got the phones in our hands. You know, there's so much noise around us that we don't really pay attention to the messages that we're getting, because there's just too much to pay attention to. And so when you find that moment to meditate with an intention and with a conscious effort that I'm going to sit here and just quiet my mind and let this plant do what it will for me, then you can quiet down and you can find a direction, and the things that are in your subconscious can rise, especially when they're ready for rising, you know. And then there's also there's something that we say in herbalism, that it's like the plant that you have an aversion to is the one you should be using. So sometimes it's the one that you're scared of, that there's a reason you're scared of it. Why is that? And so you start to investigate, you know, you investigate by using it. Usually that's the one you need the most. So, you know.
What we resist persists.
Absolutely.
But I think
Perfect.
that's a good way to think about it. Like, I'm just going to do a dance with this plant, you know.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just going to see how it goes. I'm going to do this little dance and see
Ease
what
into
happens.
it. You ease into it. Like, maybe you're scared of using it, so don't consume it. Don't breathe it in, but maybe carry the actual plant, put it in a satchel and place it on your body while you're dancing. It's energy still vibrating, and it's still there close to you, and it's still going to show you something. And maybe take it slow if you're scared of that particular plant, and then see if you've gotten any messages from it. And if you see that things are changing while you have it close to your body, then take it to the next level if you're feeling more confident with it, you know. But those are usually the ones that are harshest to you, the ones that you're scared of. And there's a reason you're scared of them, and it's because you know that it's probably going to be harsh. And so, you know, you just have to work with it.
Or visualize it. Have a picture of it even, or visualize it, and just visualize yourself doing a dance with it, so that it can still remain outside of you, but you can interact with it on some level and see.
And that's a great idea.
Sticking your toe in the water. See what it has to say.
Absolutely. You can just, because, and then if you think about it, is these situations where you're scared of something, but then you start seeing it everywhere. You notice it, there's a visual of it somewhere, like, oh, here's this plant again. Oh, here's that plant again. It's just like what you're trying to avoid is there in your face, trying to pop up. So there's a quote by Carl Jung, which I absolutely love, that says, you find your destiny on the road you take to avoid it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, you're avoiding the plant, and the plant's going to find you either way. It's going to come to you, whether you're avoiding it because you're scared of it, it'll find you. Whether you're going to walk by somebody's house and see it, their bushes in the front of their home or something in that way.
But I think it does take courage to be on a healing path. So, but there are ways to do it that, you know, start out with things that are not quite so intense, and work your way up.
Exactly.
Peel off the layers. Yeah.
Start simple and use the if you're scared of plants, then try using the soothing herbs. You know, I always recommend that people begin with lavender. I always say try lavender, because lavender can tap into lots of different areas and can tap into lots of different chakras. It's like a good all-around plant for healing. And so I always say start with lavender, see what happens. You know, jot it down.
It's balancing. So hopefully it's going to bring you into some kind of equilibrium. And also flower remedies, because generally flowers are pretty gentle. So I think that's a good place for people to start. And then once you become familiar with plants and working with plants, then maybe find your courage and use those ones that that are knocking on your door. But yeah, I think that we don't have to make it harsh. We can start in an easy way and then work up to the deeper things if we choose to do that.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who will take it to a super harsh level and use the more sacred plants, which will put them in way out there places. And they have their purpose and they serve their medicinal ways, but that's not for like your everyday practice. You know, for your everyday practice, you want to use the simple stuff, and not that they're simple because they're very complex, but the easy stuff to get, the stuff that is not going to harm you by using it on an everyday basis.
And I think plants do choose you. So
yes,
try to use the ones that are calling you, because those are the ones that you need rather than the ones you think you need.
Exactly.
Excellent. So you have a nice gift for our listeners. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So I have prepared a PDF that I am going to share with everyone regarding plant use. It's basically 7 herbs that I've chosen that kind of go together with the 7 chakras as a starting point, because a lot of times people might get intimidated by the thought of doing a plant dance. They wouldn't even know where to begin. And I think if you begin with the 7 chakras, that's a great system to use to put you in that path of doing your plant dance. You know, you start off with the root chakra, you use the root chakra herb, and you try to focus on movements that stimulate your root chakra, and try to use music that stimulates your root chakra, and see what kind of messages you get from that, and go through that system in a quick, easy way. And I'm going to be discussing that and talking about that and recommending how to use it. I'll talk about, you know, how you'll see how to prepare an infusion of tea, how to prepare a decoction of roots, and how to use the plant in conjunction with the 7 chakras.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I hope you'll all take advantage of Tania's gift and download that PDF. And thank you, Tania. Thank you for taking the time to share your plant dance with us and your experiences with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, for having me and allowing me to share this with everybody.
You're welcome. And thank you to all the listeners. I hope you enjoyed hearing what Tania had to say. And as I said, please download her PDF. All right. Bye-bye.